basketball can be a mysterious sport.
The team whose logo is in this envelope will have the first pick in the NBA draft.
Watch James. Now wanted a timeout, but too late to get it. And 5 minutes go up on the clock. Overtime here in game one.
Will Giannis win a title in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform?
It's hard for me to say that, Jay, considering how loaded the Lakers are. I don't know if you've been watching Taylor Horton Tucker over the last couple of days.
But what if those mysteries could be solved? What if those conspiracies are reality? The hoop truth is out there. Can you handle it? For the past couple of episodes, we've been trying to do like a cute intro to the pod, and it just made me realize that we cut a beautiful podcast intro, that intro that you see on YouTube and you hear on podcasts every week. So what the hell am I doing with this cute intro at the beginning every time? We did an intro. Welcome back to Hoop Truthers, guys. Weekly podcast where we dive into the NBA's mysteries, like a man doing windmill dunks between the legs dunks despite being ruled out for the season due to injury, and other things this week. I'm joined as always by the hardest working man. I didn't mean to say hardest man like that, my bad. The hardest working man, Nick Andre at ATR on Twitter, who has been diving into March Madness more so than anything else lately. Dre, how's it going, man?
It has been going great, and I feel kind of bad for the NBA right now because we've had so many great games, and it just keeps getting overshadowed by March Madness. Shout out to Sadiq Bey, who had a 51-point game this past Thursday in the midst of the beginning of March Madness. It may have been overlooked, but I would advise anybody who's listening, who's watching, to go check out that game. It's pretty awesome game.
The only game on the first day of March Madness, the NBA purposely scheduled two lottery teams to, get a game in there on the schedule, but not lose any of the spotlight. If you weren't paying attention, you could have caught up on the game on Vince Staples' Twitter. He was live tweeting the whole thing. It was fucking hilarious. I genuinely would like to check that out. But we're getting off topic already. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Just to let you guys know, we're going to talk about some breaking news right after this intro. Then Team of the Week, Game of the Week, like always. Injury report, good and bad news. A lot more bad news this week than good, unfortunately. And then we're doing the top 10 rookies. It's not going to be anything super concrete. It'll be Dre telling me his top 10, my top 10, and we'll talk about why we chose those players. Then the plug zone, and we'll finish off with some final thoughts. The Hoop Truth is out there. Let's go find it. I am keeping that corny bit in, though. You can't stop me from there. LeBron breaks the scoring record. Now, I don't know who had the number 2 all-time scoring record, regular season points in NBA history. I don't know if you do, Dre. Do you?
I don't know that guy at all.
I've got no clue.
No idea. I heard he was number 32 for Utah. It doesn't ring a bell to me.
Yeah, no idea personally, but whoever that scrub is, Bron broke him. And Bron already broke the all-time points and playoffs combined record, which means he already has the most points in the NBA, I believe. But people care more about this, and Kareem isn't untouchable. It looked like Kareem was untouchable. I mean, it's been, 50 years since Kareem's prime, so it makes sense. I mean, it stood for the test of time. But Bron is right on his way. Any thoughts on Bron breaking the record?
It's honestly a huge accomplishment. Definitely shout out to LeBron James, and it just really shows that, regardless of how the Lakers have been, we all know that the Lakers have been dog shit all year. But for LeBron to have this type of season where he's averaging almost 30 a game, and it's just just being able to do things at a high level, it's just a testament to how hard he works, and just his longevity in the league. So. And honestly, man, I'll agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the past few years, everybody has been talking about, LeBron can catch number one. LeBron can catch number one. I never actually believed it. And then, of course, you saw him catch Jordan. Then you see him catch Kobe. And then, of course, catch the other guy.
I don't know who that is, though.
Yeah, we definitely don't know who that is. But for him to be able to do this, at age 37, year 19, averaging around 30 a game. It's just remarkable to me.
Yeah, dude.
It's definitely believable that he can possibly get there. I mean, like, we don't know how many more prime years that LeBron has at this point, but if he does average around 24, 25 a game the next few years, then it's a possibility he can catch Kareem, or maybe even before that. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. 37, man. Unreal. I really hope they get that Laker team some help next year, or he fucking leaves. Just to. I mean, he could be. I mean, he's the number one guy on a team right now that's not built correctly. If he was the number one guy on a correctly built team, he'd be good. And I'm not saying join a super team, but if he just joined a team with like anybody, if he joined the Wolves, he'd take the Wolves to the fucking the finals right now. I don't know if they'd win, but he could take them to the finals.
Oh yeah.
Ant as like a successor to
wingman?
Kawhi's role, and Karl Anthony as like the ultimate version of what Kevin Love was supposed to be. He could take those dudes to the final. He wouldn't do Minnesota, but like another team like that where he could just join and add a bunch. I really would like to see LeBron do this on a good team. We saw how Kobe's career went out with putting up like 60 balls on a team that won like 15 games in a year.
Oh my god, that team was terrible.
That's what I'm hoping. So let's get some bad news. Here are the details, unfortunately for you, Dre, on Steph Curry's injury. He left a game last week with 4 minutes and 9 seconds left against Boston due to a left foot injury. The MRI that he underwent says a sprained left foot ligament, and he will be reevaluated. Sorry about that. In 2 weeks. We might not see him until the playoffs. It's not a long-term injury, thankfully, but this is bad. So here, I'm going to play the clip.
I don't think it was dirty personally. I mean, at least from my opinion, I don't think it was dirty. I mean, I think because it was Marcus Smart that he's just going to get that reputation,
right,
of it being dirty. But jeez, this is just a bad time to be a Warriors fan right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we get some momentum. Draymond comes back on Steph's birthday. Steph has a 47-point explosion against the Wizards.
Right.
So now everything's clicking. You know what I'm saying? Like early last week, Draymond's back. Steph is clicking. Clay is starting to find his rhythm, especially after a big game against Milwaukee a few nights
Jordan
before
Poole killing it.
Jordan Poole. And then, of course, we hear the news about Wiseman coming back. So now it's like, yes, like we're coming back at the right time. And then 2 nights later, this goes down. Steph Curry goes down with that injury. Now he's out at least to the first round.
Right.
Then days later, we hear about James Wiseman not being prepared to return to the lineup. The Warriors are just banged up at the wrong time. We've all been anticipating Clay's return pretty much all year long, and we've just been imagining like this team fully healthy. But at this point, it's just all about how we can just really get all together. Honestly, at this point, we just lost to Orlando tonight after at least having like a pretty decent lead in the fourth quarter. I don't know, man. It's just a bad time for Warriors fans right now. Even the game before against San Antonio, I didn't even watch the game. I just watched the end, like the last 3 minutes of it, and I was just sick to my stomach. Just watching it. But I don't know, man. It's like, it's really just all about how we can just build momentum going into the playoffs. Because right now, we don't really have an identity, especially without Steph. We didn't have a defensive identity without Draymond, and now with Clay still trying to find his rhythm, Jordan Poole is not necessarily a starting point guard. Wiggins has been struggling as well. It's like,
Wiggins is struggling, man.
He's struggling bad. Oh my goodness. But we just don't have an identity right now. I'm just hoping that we can find some type of momentum to close out the season, and then hopefully go into the playoffs with a different mindset.
Yeah, if they get healthy for the playoffs, there's no telling what they'll do. Like, I don't think this roster needs too much more chemistry. A lot of them have been playing together for like a decade, but they need to get healthy. And every time it looks like they're healthy, something bad happens. And this time it's Steph. And Steph and foot injuries have happened in the playoffs before, so you get worried about it. But let's move on. Team of the week. Dre, I'll start right now. We got Minnesota, baby. 9-1. winning a tiebreaker for number
Man.
6 seed with Denver right now, closer to the 5th seed than the 8th seed. They might just be a straight-up playoff team, not playing, man. It is a turnaround for Minnesota, and that was capped off by a 60-point game from Cat earlier this week. You watch that shit?
I didn't watch it live, but I definitely went back to watch the game. And
Yeah.
let me just say this, though, man. Like, Karl Anthony Towns has been disrespected for too long now, and I think it's really dating back to the Jimmy Butler days, because I feel like he got this reputation of just being soft, not being really like a skilled player. Cat, I'm not gonna say Cat is better than Embiid or Nikola Jokic, because I definitely don't believe that, but I feel like he definitely has to be in that conversation.
He's one of the most skilled big men. And then we saw Christian Wood a couple of nights later just hit every step back three he took. I watched the end of that game. It was crazy. Dre, you got a team of the week for me?
Well, I can't really think of another team right now unless I just want to go with the Celtics, but you definitely stole my pick. I was going to go with the Timberwolves as well.
Oh, you can do them too, baby. We can just keep talking about them.
Oh,
You got more.
I mean, when you look at last week, they went 3-0. I know they beat the Spurs, obviously, with Cat's 60-point game. They beat Milwaukee as well. They beat another
the shit out of us, yeah. No Giannis, but still.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, like this team, I have to apologize to this team, because coming into this year, I think Patrick Beverley had a quote that said that I'm not gonna get disappointed this year. We're not making the playoffs. And then I think I quoted that tweet and said that, well, you're gonna get disappointed because the team, like the Timberwolves, are not making the playoffs. Yeah. I had the T-Wolves as the 15th best team, the last best team in the West.
Oh wow.
That's absolutely insane. To see their development this year. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards is continuing to just ascend as a talent.
Vando.
Yeah, Vandal as well.
Jordan McLaughlin's been great off the bench.
Like
man.
just that whole supporting cast themselves. I mean, obviously Malik Beasley, Naz Reid, the rest of those guys. For them to be in the position that they are now, I don't think anybody expected that to come. And they're looking good at the right time right now. They're looking really good. Obviously, they beat the Spurs. They beat Milwaukee. I think they beat the Lakers as well last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the T-Wolves, if they can just keep this momentum going, they're clicking at the right time. I don't know how far they can get, but they can definitely make some noise.
I don't know how far they can get either. I think a lot of the credit has to go to Chris Finch, who, despite being hired by the weirdo last year, was a guy that people wanted as a head coach, and he's really turned this unit around, specifically on the defensive end. Jared Vanderbilt's been a wrecking ball the whole season. Jaden McDaniels, who just looking like not a breakout, but turning into a real nice NBA player at this point. Jordan McLaughlin, who's looking like Javon Carter off the bench for the Bucks. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Karl, who's been assertive, and he's got a guy who's younger than him who pushes him in Anthony Edwards. Then you've got Ant-Man, who's putting up 30 every other night, and D'Angelo Russell, whose growth on the defensive end can't be understated. He is a general out there. He's giving out orders, and when either him or Pat Bev aren't out there, they look lost, and that's credit to both of them. Patrick Beverley has bought in. He always buys in on his teams, man. I don't think he's ever quit on a team, no matter who he's on, whoever he plays for. However you feel about that guy, you have to acknowledge that. And he's doing it night and night again. I mean, he's the most annoying fucking guy in the world, and I'm sure the Timberwolves are glad to have him. They're glad to have him. I like it. I still think that they're a big wing away from anything big in the Western Conference. Yeah. That being said, the right matchup, say they meet an injured Golden State team in the playoffs who doesn't have anyone that can deal with Cat. Draymond can do some stuff, but Cat's gonna Cat regardless.
Yeah, that series is probably gonna go at least 6 or 7.
Right. So
probably at the least 6.
If you play a team like Utah, you might go. I think a lot of these teams get smoked by the Suns. If I'm keeping it a buck, like, not that honestly, they have more talent. Go ahead.
This might be a hot take, but Minnesota could possibly beat Utah.
They might. I mean, I think Rudy would do a good job on Cat. Right. He usually does.
Now that is the matchup that everybody will probably be anticipating, is that Rudy-Cat matchup.
Right. It's basically, is Anthony Edwards going to be a better offensive player than Mitchell in that series? There's a chance. Mitch has been gone off in the playoffs before.
Yeah, sure.
But we haven't seen Ant in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he just took his game to another level, like Ayton did last year. I could see it, definitely. Let's move on to Game of the Week. I actually watched this yesterday. It was fucking great. Sixers and Heat last night. The Sixers beat Miami, who's basically entirely healthy. They had Kyle, they had Tyler, they had Jimmy, they had Bam. I think they had PJ. Basically, their whole team, and they haven't been healthy all season. Lose to the Sixers without Joel Embiid and James Harden. So why is this the game of the week? This was the official. Now it's been since the trade, and this year he's been great too. But this was the Tyrese Maxey breakout game. All
It
right.
was.
There were Maxi chants going on in the Philly arena. Like, they love that guy. He had 28. Big shouts out to Shake Milton, who hasn't had a lot of minutes this year. He dropped 20 on their heads to win, but it was all Maxi. Getting to the rim for layups, pull up middies, step side, back step, threes, you name it. He's hitting everything he could want to hit. And that's with the corpse of DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap out there. Jesus, guys, you couldn't get any better options. But beat the Heat. I don't think anyone takes the Heat seriously anymore. They hunted Tyler on in the half court on defense as much as they could, and they got him every single time. But this isn't a hype Heat pod, nor is it a Philly pod, at least for not this episode. Dre, who was your game of the week? What was your favorite? There's a lot of great games this week.
I'm gonna roll with, probably me being too biased, but I'm gonna roll with last week's matchup. It was actually a tie between three games, but I'm gonna roll with this one just because I was so happy about this one last week. The Orlando Magic and the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, because Kyrie went crazy for 60 points.
Yeah.
It's part-time Kyrie. Let me just say part-time Kyrie. Definitely making noise. Not being able to play. Obviously, not being able to play home games, but definitely stepping up when he needs to in the road games. I mean, we know, it's against an Orlando Magic team. They're a lottery team. They're obviously a young team on the rise.
Right.
We get that, but just being able to watch Kyrie go to work, just watching him just be spectacular, just as a fan, just always has me excited. I think I'll probably went back and watch the highlights at least like 4 or 5 times since the game actually happened. So if it wasn't that one, I was going to go with Sadiq Bey 51 just because that game was definitely spectacular as well. Orlando just gets cooked in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
But I'm going to rock with the Kyrie one.
All right, I feel you. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to see him do that, and poor Orlando getting those point totals on them, and the new Knicks from earlier in the season. Let's move on to the injury report. We've only got one good news, so I'm going to hold it for the end. Let's start with a guy we just talked about, Jaden McDaniels. He is going to be out. He suffered a lower leg injury. I believe they determined it was a strain. Yeah, left ankle sprain. 2 weeks. So I would assume, if not close to, at the playoffs. He's not like an integral part of the Timberwolves, but when you are scratching and clawing for playoff positioning and you need all the depth you can get, he's a guy you don't want to lose. Give me 1 second thought on Jaden McDaniels.
Just a tough blow for Minnesota. I mean, it's kind of like what we mentioned earlier. That supporting cast for the team has really been stepping up, really playing at a pretty high level. Especially Jaden McDaniels. I've been watching him from even last year. Just watching his development and just watching him transcend into a great talent. So it's a big loss, but I just hope that he recovers and gets back soon.
Last week, we showed a pretty graphic image of John Collins' swollen finger that he was playing through. This is from Shams from a few days ago. He also now has plantar fascia. What was it, plantar fascia? Plantar fascia. I gotta ask I'm gonna ask Joe. Joe, if you're listening, I'm gonna ask you soon. In his right foot, as well as the damage to his right ring finger. He's been playing through pain for the past several weeks, but will now be sidelined indefinitely. I mean, they probably shouldn't have been playing him at this point. They've just been trying to get into the lottery. Or the guy getting into the plane, and they just can't. They're on the I think they're a little bit in there. Let's take a look at the NBA standings. Right now, they are 10th. They're 10th, so they'll be in the play-in, but it's looking rough for the Hawks. Do you think Collins gets traded this offseason?
There could be a possibility, honestly. I would hope not, because I honestly love him on this team. But we obviously we've discussed this before, about how he's unhappy because he doesn't get a lot of touches and everything. Obviously, with Trae Young running the offense, but I don't know, man. It's like I honestly love that combination of him and Trae Young. Obviously, this year hasn't really been the greatest of things for Atlanta this year. Shout out to my guy Pat Benson, by the way. I love you, Pat. But
Shout out.
but yeah, I mean, honestly, it just I don't know, man. It's like I just don't think John Collins is really happy. He hasn't really been happy in Atlanta. I don't know exactly who you would like trade him for, whether it could be like a Christian Wood or what other top tier big is out there. I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head right now.
Nurkic probably.
Nurkic in Portland to Atlanta. Okay, yeah, I can definitely imagine that.
Capella's going to get moved too, probably. If Collins, I mean, I think both will get moved, but Capella is the absolute for sure. They're trading Capella this offseason. I would assume he's going to Charlotte too.
He hasn't really been. I'm not gonna say he's been bad, but just watching a few of like the Atlanta games, he hasn't been as best as as he was in like in years prior, like particularly in the playoffs last year. So yeah, I can definitely see that happen.
Yeah, there'll be a few more guys out there. I think Capella's still fine. I just think the team has been worse as a whole, and you and I both think that.
I think they just need to go young at this point. They need to.
Well, yeah, they should, and I think they will. I think they'll trade a lot of dudes this season. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if guys like Danilo or Bogdan got traded as well. Let's take a look-ski at Richaun Holmes. A little bit of bad news.
Oh yeah.
For no specific reason given, and we're not going to pry into his life, Richaun Holmes will not play for the rest of the season due to a personal situation. Brendan Nunes, who covers the Kings, I give him a follow on Twitter. It's pretty day-to-day stuff if you want to keep an eye on a team that's kind of sad. He was underpaid this offseason, had some eye injuries that were weird, health and safety protocols, and as soon as Sabonis got traded, he was no longer the starter in Sacramento, and will not be as long as Sabonis is there. I hope he gets traded him myself. I hope that whatever he's dealing with off the scenes isn't doing too bad, and we see him out there pretty soon. Dre, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, when I first heard the news, obviously it's not something that that you want to hear. A player not coming or a player that's sitting out the rest of the year due to personal reasons. I just hope that it's nothing major or involves his family or loved ones or anything. So. Definitely big kudos to Richaun Holmes, who we are both like a big fan of. So I just hope that he can get back there on the court soon.
Was one of my top targets for the Bucks at the trade deadline for a big man. I think he's one of the few that can exist with another non-shooting player. We talked about this briefly, so we're not going to stay on it, but Wiseman, just the specifics of the injury. He was ramping back up and played a couple of games in Santa Cruz, played very well, statistically at least. I didn't watch them, and is experiencing swelling in his right knee, which is the injury, the knee he got the ACL injury and the surgery on. So they've stopped him. No updates. They don't know when he's going to get back into it. His timeline is indefinite. It really fucking sucks for Wiseman. We're going to talk about that in a future episode, and we touched on a decent amount. Lonzo Ball was also ramping up. This one fucking sucks. He was playing some practice and getting ready for a return, and he'll stop running for 10 days because of continued discomfort in his knee. So another person ramping up that can't do it. This fucking bums me out, man. Dre, how do you feel about this?
This one sucks, in my opinion. I know that the Wiseman one sucks, especially as a Warriors fan, but this one sucks because obviously I'm a big fan of Lonzo Ball, but the Bulls really need him right now. They've needed him for a little while now, especially, with what he brings to the table as far as, his vision, his playmaking ability, his great on-ball defense. They've really been missing it. I know a guy like, Ayo Dosunmu has been stepping up tremendously in that starting point guard spot. But in my opinion, he's not Lonzo Ball, unfortunately. And I mean, it's not a diss to him, what I'm saying? It's just that, Lonzo just brings a little bit more versatility, in my opinion, at least as far as, defense and everything. So they did just get Alex Caruso back, but to hear that Lonzo may not be is not running for the next 10 days, I just hate it because now it's just now it just pushes back his rehab and everything as far as getting back.
Yeah, the report says that a regular season return is increasingly unlikely at this point. They would still expect him in the playoffs, but you would hope he would get some time to get his legs under him in the regular season before then. Another player who's dealt with a lot of injuries in the past couple of years, and I really was hoping that was an unfair label that people
Right.
gave him, but we'll
So
see.
that's also another scary thing though, is that he could be back by the playoffs, but how productive do you think that he could be for them?
If he's healthy, they could use his playmaking. His vision
Right.
is on the elite tier, and they've got guys that are great iso ball guys, and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who can both run offense to some extent. Ayo can
Right.
do it a little bit too, and Caruso's a good passer, but he's not necessarily a triple threat. Lonzo is, and you can always use one of those, but you'd also do that. And honestly, I think your bench unit should consist of taking the scorers out in DeMar and Levine when you're not staggering them for iso ball segments. Is just pick and roll with Lonzo and Vooch. I think they could do that perfectly. Really sucks for Lonzo. Let's move on. This is the sad team that we talked about earlier, the Kings, who traded Tyrese Halliburton. He bumped knees. I saw the play. It looked really nasty. It is not a serious knee injury, which thank fucking God, because that would have been a full year and they wouldn't have had him next year either. He will be sidelined for the upcoming 5-game road trip. I honestly think he won't play for the rest of the season. At this point, the Kings, who, let's pull up the standings again. I'm holding in a sneeze, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it. The Kings are 13th right now. They're 13th in the West. Just get that pick, bro. Like,
shut it down.
It's not what you wanted. You wanted to make the playoffs this year. That's why you did the trade. But Darren Fox is out with injury right now, too. Shut it down. If you guys can get another top 5 pick with Fox, Davion, and Sabonis, hey, maybe you can do something, man. I know you've been saying that about Sacramento forever, but maybe they get lucky and they get a guy that they get a really good player. And we'll talk about rookies in just a hot second. 2 more injury updates. Zion, we had a couple weeks there of good Zion, positive Zion news that he was ramping up. He might play 5-on-5 soon, not contact, of course. And Shams reported that he's not expected to return to the court at all this season as he continues to recover from surgery. No reports of a setback like the other players that we mentioned, but still working on it. Dre, man, how you feel about this?
So, I've had obviously about 30 minutes, because I mean we definitely talked about this before we started recording, and honestly I'm not too mad at it. Honestly, I think Zion's just playing it safe. Obviously I'm not really a fan of him dunking, what I'm saying, especially like that, especially with his injury history. But I think for him sitting out the rest of the year, I think he's definitely playing it safe. I mean, look, we know that the Pelicans are right now in the playing position, but that's not guarantee that they'll actually make it in. I don't necessarily give them like a high chance. I don't know if you actually give them a high chance or not, but for me, I just feel like Zion's playing it safe. And I've been saying it all year. Just shut him. Just shut him down. Shut him down for the whole year. In my opinion, I just feel like it's more of a risk, to bring him in towards the end of the season, where if you may have a playoff chance, and then let's say for instance he does play in that playing game and he does get hurt again, considering his injury history. So in my opinion, this is a good decision for them to shut it down. Just let them go through the offseason, continue to rehab, and then just prepare and revamp for next year.
Yeah, Pelicans are 10th right now, so they could very conceivably make the play-in tournament. I don't know if they would win those games, but it's better for New Orleans than anything else they've had for a second. Would be fun if they got matched up with the Grizzlies in the first round. Even without Zion, Ja would just beat the piss out of them for daring to take anyone behind him. And some good news. Finally, we've had 2 games now of Patrick Williams, who has returned for the Chicago Bulls, an oft-injured team, gets Patty Will back. He only played like a couple games. I think it might have been the first game. Yeah, it might have been the first game of the season. And he played yesterday. He played tonight. I watched him play against the Bucks tonight. Looks spry. He looks defense ready. Still got bullied a couple of times, but that's going to happen at his height and weight. I haven't seen the shot come back just yet, but it's great news for the Bulls, especially while they're dealing with their other injuries. I think that's it for the injury report. Sorry for all the bad news this week. I don't make the rules. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a goddamn injury report in the NBA. We would only do it because there's so much news every day that we want to update people once a week with that. Let's move on to the rookies, though. We gush about the rookies in our messages, in podcasts that have nothing to do about them. We love this crop of rookies this year, and the first round, especially with some gems in the second round, has been a lot of hits. So what we're going to do is rank them right now. We'll explain why they're not always going to be following the same formula. If you came for that, that's fine. We're going to talk about why we're choosing them and whether we would consider them for the future spot as well. But I think this is right now who are the top 10 rookies. Let's start off with number one. We'll go back and forth saying who is ours, but I don't think we have a different number one. Who you got, Jay?
Oh my God, we'll see who has a different number one. But this one was actually pretty tougher. This one was actually tougher than I thought, honestly. Obviously we know about the guy in Cleveland who has been, taking the league by storm, basically since the beginning, really running away with the award. But then you got the guy in Detroit who everyone called a bust after his first game, and I was telling people, please shut the fuck up.
Just Twitter hate.
Please,
Twitter hate.
please be patient. And now he's mostly everyone's favorite rookie now. But I am siding with Evan Mobley on this first pick. Why? Yeah. Because he has been more consistent, in my opinion, through the course of the year. The Cavs are right now in position. I think they're number 5 or number 6 in the Eastern Conference right now, so they are definitely in a playoff position, whereas the Pistons, who are definitely in a lower tier in the Eastern Conference, this is not a knock to Cade because Cade has played exceptional. I didn't understand.
We're gonna get to Cade. Okay. Stay on Mobley.
Okay. Oh yeah, definitely. Mobley. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I do know that his presence on both ends of the floor, just being that versatile big on the offensive end, and then of course being a great rim protector on the defensive end, and just being able to guard positions 1 through 5 on the switch is super incredible to me. So, like I said, I love Cade, but I got to go with Mobley, in my opinion, for this number one pick.
I'm also going Mobley. Yeah, I'm also going Mobley. Cavs are 6th in the East right now. Full-on playoff spot. They've done it without tons of dudes that they've lost to injury. First, Ricky Rubio. Rajon Rondo's been banged up since he got there. Karis LeVert's been the same. Latest injury to Jarrett Allen isn't helping them. Lauri Markkanen has been dealing with it. Garland has missed some time, so has Mobley, but the constants have been Garland and Mobley for the most of the time. I don't know if I would I think I might still take Cade first, and I'll explain that when we talk about Cade. But Mobley is going to be a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. Since Allen got hurt, he's been starting at center, putting up 20-plus a game, 10-plus rebounds a game, 3 stocks, that's steals and blocks combined a game. Just a monster on both ends of the floor, and shows his promise as a center in this league without a big guy, protecting him. I think he's going to be able to handle it. What impresses me the most is just the shooting touch. His splits aren't awesome this year, but everyone's his dog shit when you're a rookie. He just makes these floaters. He makes these hooks. He'll dribble up to a midi and just hit it. He'll do a hook from halfway through the paint. That's how tall he is. And he'll make threes. He's shooting 26% on threes. It's terrible right now. But he can hit threes, and the shooting form looks nice. The touch is there. I'm really excited about Mobley's prospects. I think the future is to have him as a center. I think if you really want to juice your offense up, because you've got Garland, and he can make things that need to happen for anyone. Jarrett Allen's a great setter, and he's a great screener. He's a great screener into a roller where he gets a lot of lobs, or he can score inside the paint. He's a good sealer. But having just the ultimate center of Mobley at center, and then just give him wings, just put wings out there and let them operate.
Right.
My dream destination for Jaylen Brown has always been the Cavs, and that's the type of guy that they should be looking after getting. So here's the thing with Mobley. I don't see any flaws. I just don't know if he's going to be a takeover on the offensive side of things. Not that he has to be. He's going to be a better offensive player than Rudy Gobert, but is he going to be a Giannis? Is he going to be a shooting type of guy like Kristaps in his prime? Or is he going to be a guy that focuses more on the defensive end? And that doesn't lower him very much, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so definitely, I like how you brought that point up because I can possibly see him as either being a Giannis, where he just basically attacks, at like 1,000 miles per hour, or honestly, I can even see a little bit of Anthony Davis, honestly.
Sure.
Honestly, I mean, I'm thinking about it, and then also, I mean, I definitely like how you mentioned that Mobley should be the starting center. I mean, it kind of hurts me because I really do love Jared Allen, but when you think about just the spacing perspective
Yeah.
of that situation, especially when you have like great shooters like Lowry Marketing and then other guys as well who are able to be knockdown shooters, like just being able to have Evan Mobley who can play on all sides of the floor, that definitely opens
Yeah.
up everything as far as going into the lane and everything.
That's the future of the NBA center. There are needs for big men, like traditional 7-foot big men like Jared Allen, because if you play in the Eastern Conference, odds are you're going to run into Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's at least if you're serious in the playoffs. And you got to deal with Nikola Vucevic to some extent too. He's a way
That's
third
true.
tier guy, but those types of dudes. You're going to have to compete with Bam Adebayo on the boards. In the West, you got Jokic, and Jokic is going to be involved anytime. DeAndre Ayton beasts dudes on the big man, and when he's healthy, Anthony Davis as well. So there's absolutely a need for those guys out there. But I think the future of the big man position is these not slender, but not like massive centers, not super wide, and lanky dudes that just rule it. I think Onyeka Okongwu is going to be the same way. I think Mobley is going to be the same way. I think Chet Holmgren, who's playing in the tournament right now, is going to be similar of that. And I think the NBA is
Jabari
going
Smith
to.
Jr.
Yeah.
The other guys, Paulo Banchero possibly.
Like those just thin big men that are going to be able to do everything on the floor. And I think it's going to be like the next big player, like a KG prototype. And that shouldn't be possible, but there's just multiple of those things out there.
That's honestly another comparison to Mobley, possibly.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think he's got that potential, especially on the defensive side of the field. And that's why he's been the best player this year. He's done it every single game. He's missed time, but not as much as the other guys. And his team is sixth in the NBA. That's the argument. Okay. Number 2, I can't imagine we don't have Cade Cunningham.
Oh, yeah, we definitely have Cade Cunningham. And
So we're going to talk about him. It's nothing against him, but Dre, let me hear your thoughts. I mean, well, here's the first question. Would you still take Cade over at Mobley in a redraft, or would you take Mobley at this point?
Considering how both played in college, I mean, I'm not saying that Mobley didn't play well because he definitely played exceptional at USC, but it was definitely Cade. Like Cade was like the number one star. Cade basically led that Oklahoma team to a number one seed in the NCAA tournament last year. Basically, he had a good supporting cast, but to the most degree, he didn't really have the much help, particularly on offense. So it was really just him running the show,
right,
practically on the offensive end last year, which made his season even more remarkable. So, even though everything happened, what I'm saying right now, as far as Evan Mobley obviously running away with the rookie of the year award, I would probably still take Cade as number one, and plus I honestly feel like he's a better fit for Detroit anyways,
right,
compared to Mobley. So I think it all worked out. I think it all worked out in everyone's favor. But for Cade, honestly, who's been having a great, exceptional year, honestly, it's just so crazy though, and I have to give credit as well to Dwayne Casey as well, because I feel like he's really been able to trust Cade a lot, especially with him running the offense and everything, basically doing what he can do as far as scoring, as far as distributing the rock, being able to compliment guys like Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, B. Stu, the rest of these guys, that are on the team. So Cade's presence has definitely been felt in the on the floor for Detroit this year. I know that the record may not say it right now, but he's definitely played exceptional this year, and which is the reason why he's definitely right behind Mobley as far as Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah, Pistons weren't looking to win games this year, so I'm not necessarily going to fault Cade for doing that. Some stats: he's averaging 17.8 points, 5.8 rebounds, 5.54 assists in there. He scored 20 plus in 8 of his last 9, including a 7 straight stretch before one got interrupted. It's that's why I would take him over. He's got heliocentric potential. He is a Luka type where you can run the offense through him entirely. Not that you always have to, not that you always want to, but you can run it through him entirely. He can score, he can dribble, he can pass. He's a triple threat to an elite level, and that's the type of those types of wings win you championships. They lead you to championships.
That's true.
It's a Braun type of model. I'm not saying he's Braun. I'm not saying he's Luka, but that's that type of model. And when you get a guy of that type of caliber, you just have to take them, because then you don't have to worry about your offense. You just surround him with good shooters or other guys, and if you get more talented players, great. But if not, he's just going to elevate them. He's a floor raiser, and his ceiling is as high as anyone in this draft as well. He can and 5 rebounds, 5 assists. They'll show you that, but he's also just scoring. I think if you get a wing like that, as much as I value the Evan Mobley type, I think you have to value the Cade Cunningham one. If you're starting from scratch, scratch, the Cade Cunningham model makes more sense, I think. And they've got their eyes. I mean, they're going to be terrible this year. They might be got their eyes on Chet, because Chet's not guaranteed to go number 1. In fact, I think Jabari is up at number 1 with Paolo might be at 2 at this point. But if they can get Chet, I think that's their plan, is to start building it from there, because they've got the wing, they could get the big man. They would still need a guard. I don't necessarily think Killian Hayes is that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Cade's at number 2. No knocks on him for being under Mobley. We'd still draft him over. But let's go for number 3, which I think is going to get a little bit it might get different. Who's your number 3, Dre?
So my number 3 is Scotty Barnes. Just
Same.
because, let me just say this, man. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I definitely did not expect the Raptors to be as good as they are this year. I think they're right behind Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
As far as in the standings, obviously, you can give a lot of credit to Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, other
OG,
guys like Gary,
Malachi Flynn, Ken Burch.
Gary Trent Jr., the list goes on and
Gary
on
Trent
and
Jr.,
on. But
yeah, that's a good one.
Scotty Barnes' ability, in my opinion, he can become a Giannis 2.0, just because, just with his length, his athleticism, his ability to really just, play multiple positions on the floor. And he's really showing that for throughout this year for the Raptors. Like I said, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I wish I did. Unfortunately, I don't. But Scotty Barnes' impact has been really felt this year for the Raptors. He's been a big-time defensive player. Obviously, just being able to attack the basket on offense. So when you look at this list, there's a reason why he went. I can't remember. Did he go number 5, if I'm not mistaken, or 4 or 5? 4? Okay, yeah. Like, there's a reason why he went right behind Cade, Jalen Green, and Evan Mobley. Like, Scotty Barnes has a lot of potential to be great in the future.
He's a monster, man. I don't know about the Giannis comp. I could see him as like a Kawhi comp, honestly, closer to. I just think it's more of a wing guy than he is with the big man. March 18th, this is within this week, 30, 17, and 6 assists, just monstrous. Raptors are in the play-in. He gets credit for that. I think the knock on him is that he is surrounded by good talent. Not that he's not in Cleveland, but it's less proven talent. I mean, Fred, Pascal, and OG won a ring, and they weren't unimportant to that roster. So I think that's like the reason people don't have him as the number 1 or the number 2. But as far as these two-way wings go, man, he's going to be one of the best in the league very soon. And you guys gave Nick Nurse and Masai to some extent this guy. You gave him a guy that they turned OG into a very serviceable NBA player with some big scoring nights. Pascal, they developed from really raw into this incredibly skilled player who was all NBA one time and figures to do it again. He's been playing well again this season after a rough start. And you give him a guy like Scotty, who's got all this talent in the world. I'm really interested to see where the Raptors go next, because I think they got to address that big man. Maybe they'll address it in a big way. We've seen with Masai, but Scotty's at 3, and he deserves it to be. He's just been so good this year. I've got this Ness guy at 4, but number 5 is cashing up to him, in my opinion. Number 4, I've got Franz Wagner. How about you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I have Josh Giddey as number 4.
You have Josh Giddey. Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do. Let's talk about Giddey, and I'll let you know where I have him after you go for it.
Yeah. So obviously, if you haven't really watched him much, OKC, obviously, with guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's had a good year. A lot of people have Lou Dort as being the most improved player this year, which is really surprising to me. But
yeah,
Giddey has been an important factor this year for the for the Thunder this year. His passing ability. And honestly, he's honestly been a pretty decent scorer as well. You know what I'm saying? Just being able to knock down mid-range shot, being able to get to the basket. But definitely the most important aspect of this game has been his passing. His distributing, his floor vision has just been phenomenal. Obviously, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if he's an overall better player than a lot of these other guys that I have on my list,
Sure.
but I just feel like Giddey's importance to the Thunder has been really spectacular.
I've got Giddey at 6 on my lineup, and I'll explain why. But I think, and this isn't corroborated, so if I'm wrong, yell at me, but not too mean, please. Fourth youngest triple doubles in NBA history belong to him. He's been putting them up like
Mm-hmm.
crazy. He averages 12.5, 7.8 rebounds, 6.4 assists. So if you thought I was impressed with Cade's 5 and 5, this is just if even more impressive. He's currently out for a few weeks with a hip injury, but Giddey is great, man. I don't know if there's a comp for him. Like the closest comp I can think of is Lonzo Ball, just with that vision. But he's got a bit more importance to that stat pattern. I don't think he has the defensive side of Lonzo's game. Maybe he'll
No,
develop that.
definitely
Maybe
not.
I don't know. But and he's not allergic to scoring like a Ben Simmons. But I agree. I don't think he's going to be one of those scorers that you can rely on for 30. He's done.
Oh
I think
yeah,
he's gotten close before, and that's not what this team needs. This is just sort of a purely looking at the player. You don't need that to be that guy when you have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You need fewer scores when you've got SGA, but he can do some stuff. It's just the passing and the rebounding. He really is LaMelo without like the elite shooting. You
yeah,
know?
in the athleticism.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Giddey. I just think ceiling wise, he is a little bit more limited than the other guys that I have in front of him, and I just really don't know what's going on with OKC just yet. I mean, they haven't won games this year, and I can't fault him for that. I wonder what's going to happen when he's got more talented teammates. There's a chance that he brings it to another level. I think Giddey is one of the X factors of this draft because I really don't know how good he's going to get. I know he's going to be good, but I have no idea. I have no idea how good he's going to be depending on the pieces around him and the coaching and whether he stays in Oklahoma City or not. Because I think he's going to be a really, really special type of player, but I really don't know how and what kind. My number 4 was Franz. I think, listen, 50.3 points per game, which I think is the second most among rookies behind Cade. 4.7 rebounds, 2.9 assists. So he's a big man that's dishing it a little bit on 46.4 field goal, 36.1 3-pointers. One of the better shooting splits in the NBA for among rookies. And I think he's just been the best pure offensive guy so far. The guy that I'm going to talk about next is around there. I mean, I think he's got more offensive potential, but this year, all around pure offense, it's been Franz. He's shooting it, he's taking it to the rack, he's running some pick and rolls as well as being the
For sure.
screener in them. Orlando hasn't done much, but they've got a really bright future. We've talked about them a number of times on this podcast, Trey. And I just think when you have a big man who's going to be able to score like that, modernly too, like he hits threes, he shoots threes, and he shoots them a lot. I think that's going to be really valuable for them, especially with the roster they've got going on there. I mean, they're really just like a star wing away at this point. Franz and Wendell Carter Jr. is a great front court. And then you can do a combo of Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony or Markelle Fultz in the backcourt. It's just that wing. They need a wing, which obviously is one of the hardest things in the NBA to get. But they're on their way to another pick. They've got some young guys. Maybe they can make some moves to trade somebody, or they can, crush the pick that they get. What are your thoughts on Franz, Jay?
I love Franz. Honestly, he was actually my sleeper in the draft. Honestly, because of his ability. I mean, I don't know a lot of people saw him in college, but what he's doing now in the NBA compared to what he's doing in college is really nothing different. He's definitely showing that scoring ability from just being able to stretch the floor, knock down 3-point shots, but then also just being able to attack the rim, being able to knock down mid-range shot, being able to get to the foul line. So you can easily say that he may have taken his game to another level, throughout the course of this year, compared to what he was in college. So I'm definitely a fan. I'm definitely a fan of Franz. I actually had him as number 6.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, I might put him a little bit higher, honestly, because I think he might be a little bit better than who I have at number 5. But we'll definitely get into that.
At number 5, I've got Jalen Green. Who do you have? Jalen
Same
Green.
here.
All right, that's what I thought, and I was hoping. Who has been heating up, by the way. Like, he might take 4 from Franz by the end of this year. Since the All-Star break, this is from yesterday or a couple of days ago when I took this stat, 20.3 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.1 steals. Really good numbers. And I don't know how much Jalen Green you've watched. I actually catch a lot of Rockets games because I'm on the West Coast now. They've always got late games, and
Right.
the way he moves on the court is so fluid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Kyrie type of fluidity to his offense. Not that he's even close to that level at this point, but it looks like he's moving like a little bit faster than everyone else. Like they're a little bit
Oh
slowed
yeah.
down than he is. And he gets to the rim now. He's dunking like crazy. He gets oops thrown to him. He's shown that he can do that. But it's these pull up threes and these step backs, the side steps that he's just hitting over and over again. When he's hot, there's very few people like him in the rookie class, but also in the league, I think. And the defensive effort has been out there. I follow a lot of Rockets people on Twitter because I like hearing about that team. The improvement on defense is there. He's trying a lot more. The fluidity on the offense. I think one of the main weaknesses right now, and honestly, not many, because I think his game is going to round out really easily. His first rookie year, everyone says is a lot like Anthony Edwards. I see the parallels. He needs to get to the line more. He's got a frail body. I can see he's going to avoid contact. Not that he always does, but he just doesn't get free throws. And he needs to get in there and create more contact. But that's really more nitpicky than anything else. I'm a fan of Green. I thought that people calling him a bust was for too long. I still think he's always going to get this comparison. It's not fair, but I don't think he's better than Evan Mobley. I don't think he's going to be better than Evan Mobley. But he plays entirely different, This is like here's how I'll put it. The Memphis Grizzlies took Jaren Jackson Jr. over Trae Young. They knew that Trae Young would be available, but they allowed that trade to happen so they could get Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to win a DPOY in his career probably, but maybe he's not the franchise-altering superstar that Trae Young is. If Jaren Jackson Jr. is like the opposite in this draft. Jalen Green is going to be a great player, but I don't know if he's going to be a multiple-time superstar like Mobley is. So he's the Jaren Jackson. And then flipped on that is Trae Young, who's this altering superstar that can shoot, pass, play make, heliocentric to the gills. That's just a fun comparison. But tell me about Jalen, baby. I don't know how much you've watched this year.
Jalen is honestly spectacular. I mean, we all know that I was such a big Ignite fan a year ago. So, I've been catching Jalen Green basically since the beginning, honestly.
Right.
And to see his development, just improving overall as the score has definitely been impressive to me. He still does take some ill-advised threes, in my opinion. Like sometimes I just feel like, some shots are just kind of like unnecessary. But, at the end of the day, if you have to take it, and he's just going to continue to learn how to take, good efficient shots as time goes on.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with, with the frail body, in my opinion. And you can say that about a lot of guys, particularly with him. You could tell like with his arms and everything, he's not really the strongest. So definitely that will be like one of the one thing that's on the agenda this offseason is definitely to get stronger. And then also just, just a little bit more effort on defense. I know that he has the ability to get stops. I definitely saw that at the during his days for the Ignite, and I definitely seen it throughout the course of this year. But I just want to see a little bit more effort on the end of the floor for him.
Yeah, I agree. It's not even necessarily about adding weight. I mean, he's going to get bodied wherever he is and how much weight he puts on him, I think. But even frail guys like Trae Young have figured out how to get to the line and get free throws. The point is, if you're going to be, unfortunately or fortunately, if you're going to be an elite offensive player in this league, you got to get to the free throw line, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can shoot. You can, hit impossible layups all you want. If you want to be an elite scorer, if you want to be a 25-plus scorer in this league, which I'm sure they thought he would be or could be, obviously not this year, could be in his career as a 25-plus guy, you're going to have to get to the free throw line. So figure out how to do that. So here's what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got Mobley, Cade, Barnes, Scotty, Jalen Green, and Josh Giddey. And I think that's where the stardom, I think, might end in this draft so far. Number 7 has a chance, but not necessarily on the offensive side of the ball. Who's your number 7, Dre?
So number 7, this might be a surpriser, but I have Herb Jones from.
I also have Herb Jones. Tell me about Herb Jones, brother.
Man, this guy, honestly, I mean, this is another guy who was spectacular in college. If you watched Alabama last year, who was able to win the SEC title last year, Herb Jones was by far like the number 1 option for that team. And there's almost like, a veteran presence to his game, honestly. He brings the effort on the defensive end. He's not really known for his offense, but I feel like his offense will come as time comes along. But his ability to, just be a great on-ball defender, using his length and his size, being able to get into the passing lanes and deflect passes. he's really been a big factor for New Orleans this year on the defensive end. I don't know if people really pay attention, but if they don't, they definitely need to.
I know I should watch more Pelicans, but I watch the clips of Herb whenever I can. I think Stephen No did a great piece about him for Sporting News. Um, he's not. You can't. I don't know if you can build a defense around him like some of the most elite players in the NBA, but he's not like Robert Covington. Like he's a lot better than
Oh
Robert
yeah,
Covington on
definitely.
the
Oh my
defensive
God,
end,
yes.
especially as an on-ball defender. He's just eons past Robert Covington. He's going to be an all-defensive guy. I think maybe he's a McHale. I don't know if he's a McHale, but that's where I'm drifting right now with it in terms of sort of more of a modern guard, modern wing and wing defender. Let's go through the stats. First in steals per game and total steals among rookies. And he's shooting 35.3% from three. So he's hitting his threes. He can be a two-way player. He can be a 3 and elite D guy. That exists in the NBA where you're 3
Yeah, it
and elite
does.
D. You don't play D. You don't do a lot of offense, but you can hit threes, man. And that's all you fucking need to do. The Pelicans are inching towards the playoffs, but they're not going to have Zion. Herb Jones has been. It's the first good draft pick outside of like the top one for David Griffin in his time in New Orleans. And they might add another one. They might not, though, because I think they might have traded it to Memphis in the Jonas trade. But they're going to have the Lakers pick that figures to be pretty solid this year. And maybe they can move up. Maybe they can add a guy. But Herb Jones looks great, man. He looks great. I'm really happy for the Pelicans to have him on there. Number 8.
Ooh, we're getting down there. We're getting close.
We're getting down there, yeah. And I'm only the guy that I have at Nate isn't the best player in the next couple of guys. He's not has the highest ceiling, but he has contributed minutes, lots of minutes, starters minutes even, to a playoff team.
I gotta hear
And
this.
it's the steal of the draft, man. It's Ayo Dosunmu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a big surprise there.
What you got for 8,
But I
brother?
like it. I picked Bones Highland from
Yeah.
Denver. I picked Bones Highland, man. That guy, honestly, he's been a big contributor, off the bench for Denver. Obviously, just being able to step up, whenever they need to. I mean, I know we talked about it before, Bones Highland, Jeff Green, DeMarcus Cousins, a lot of these big supporters for the Nuggets, as far as their supporting cast. But Bones Highland just plays with absolutely no fear on the floor. He's gonna try to get to the basket. He's gonna try to knock down 3-point shots. He just plays with a lot of confidence, which really has made him like a really fun guy to watch in Denver. So that's crazy, man. I don't even have Ayo on my list, man. I should have added him on my list, but I'm gonna keep it as it is. I definitely love Ayo. I love what he brings to the table as far as being able to play on both ends of the floor. We definitely mentioned earlier how he's been able to step up as a starting point guard role while Lonzo is out. But I have to go Bones on this one, man. I just got to give him a little bit of love.
Bones is a massive reason why the Nugget bench is good now. Not even just passable. They've been some of the worst parts of the Nuggets playoff teams that have gone in the past couple of years. But the Bones and Boogie pick and roll thing, which has one of the best combination of names in the NBA, is also just one of the most lethal options. They're killing teams in the pick and roll. You add in guys like Bryn Forbes and who's JaMychal Green, who's rediscovered a little bit of youth lately. I've seen some massive dunks and blocks from JaMychal Green recently. It's kind of crazy. And you also got guys like Will Barton. Bones has been great. Offensive point guards in this draft, there's not a ton better than him. I think it's Jalen and Josh. That might be it for the offensive point guards in the draft that are better than him. They got a steal. Denver did. I've got Ayo at 8. So I mentioned steal the draft. He went 38th overall. I mean, and this is from Jamal Collier. It's going to be my article of the week. It's a profile on Ayo Dosunmu. In the past 25 years, only 5 second-rounders averaged 25 minutes a game for a team that made the playoffs, and Ayo's probably going to be the 6th. I think Brogdon was one of those guys that did that as well, but Ayo's going to be the 6th. He's been guarding the other team's best perimeter player as much as they can. He started for long stretches of the season there with Lonzo and Caruso both hurt and averaging like 35 minutes a game for lots of those games. For that, you're going to get put up in the rankings for me. You're not going to win Rookie of the Year, but you're going to get put up there. He's also hitting 39.1% of threes on 2.5 shots per game. So he's doing the defense. He's locking down. Honestly, he's not as good because Drew Holiday punks him every single time they play, but he's got a Drew Holiday prototype about him. And if they can develop him into that, then Chicago's set for a little bit.
Yeah.
They've got some defense. But it's also the threes that he's hitting. He's hitting a high percentage of his threes for a team that needs more shooting around their guys. It's really cool. I think Ayo deserves that, and that's why I put him at 8. Number 9, I've got a guy who went in the top 10 at least, and I'm a big fan of him. Dre, who do you got at 9?
This is going to be another surpriser, man. I'm going with all offense, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, these last few picks, I'm going with, like, this electric offense. And I'm going to go with another one who I believe this guy is like a microwave to me. You know what I'm saying? When he heats up, he's really unguardable to me. We saw last year in college. Cam Thomas.
Oh, yeah?
Cam Thomas, definitely one of those guys for me. Obviously, you know, he doesn't really bring a lot of presence on the defensive end, but definitely on offense, he definitely has a lot that he brings to the table. He's had a few 30-point games this year. Obviously, as the team has been, you know, without Harden, obviously Kyrie, because Kyrie hasn't been able to play home games. Kevin Durant missed a big stretch of the year so far. So when you think about, you know, other guys who are able to just contribute on the offensive end for them, Cam Thomas has been one of them who has stepped up significantly.
He can score, man. He's got touch, and it's not just like hitting threes like a lot of rookies can do out of the league now, at least, you know, guys that are 3-point specialists, but he gets to the middle of the paint, and he throws up a lot of floaters. He's got good touch on those floaters. He's confident, and he's hit game winners this year with that. I don't know what he's going to be in the league, to be fully honest. I don't know if he's a good enough to be a Jordan Clarkson type, but I think that's his ceiling if he can reach that. And it's not going to be with Brooklyn either. I'm sure they can sell on the hype and get someone, a veteran for him from a team that could take a look at a guard. And maybe at that point we'll discover if he can be a Jordan Poole, Jordan Clarkson type. But he's got the shooting touch. It's there for sure. My number 9 is you went offense, I went defense. I'm going Kuminga. We've got
how in the world did I forget Kuminga?
It's on your team, baby. Golden State. Listen,
Jeez.
Another G League Ignite guy, proving to be another worthy pick from the G League Ignite.
Definitely.
Massive defensive potential. He's tall, he's lanky, he's got strength to him, and he's going to add to that strength because he's still kind of skinny and is in the right places, I think. And it's not hard to be in the right places when you've got a team with Draymond Green dictating things and Steve Kerr knowing how to put players around that Draymond scheme. But he's looked great. And it's not just the defense, but he's a great cutter for a team that passes a lot. He knows how to find the open lane and go up for a dunk. And a great rebounder for a team that doesn't have any size. Kevon Looney's like the biggest man you got, especially with Wiseman hurt for the entire year.
Don't even get me started on Looney.
Yeah, I know. We talked about this before. But he's a great rebounder. And that's imperative for a team that wants to roll out guys like him as power forwards on a regular basis, if not small ball centers. They got someone. They got a wing that can play defense, and the shooting splits are bad right now. They just are, but he can play. Like here's something from Dalton Johnson at DaltonJ_Johnson from yesterday. Andrew Wiggins versus Jonathan Kuminga since February 1st. Wiggins in 16 games, 32 minutes a game, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 41.2 field goal percentage, 34.1% from 3, and 45.9% from free throw. What the fuck is going on with Wiggins' free throws? Anyways, Kuminga in 20 games, 4 stars. He's playing 25 minutes a game, 7 less. Same points, 14.1 points than Wiggins. 4.8 rebounds, essentially the same. 54.7 from the field, better. 33.3% from 3, essentially the same. And 76.1 free throw percentage. So he's doing like Wiggins stats in 8 less minutes a game.
Steve Kerr, it's time.
It is, and we'll see. And if he hits his free throws, because he was projected as one of the rawest shooting prospects in the league. He's already outperforming what we thought for him. He looks better, and maybe just being drafted to a team that shoots like that can do that. But I'm a big fan of Kuminga. You've watched him more than I have this year. He's on your team. What are your thoughts?
I mean, basically everything that you just mentioned. And I mean, honestly, you know, he's a guy like and I've mentioned this before, on previous episodes, but he's a guy that with his great defensive presence of guarding all five positions, you can place him in a small ball offense. You know what I'm saying? If you had a lineup of Steph, Jordan Poole, Clay, Draymond, and Kaminga, that type of that lineup, in my opinion, down the stretch can obviously help you win games because if you watch him if you watch him in the G League at night, he's able to protect the rim at times, which is definitely a big attribute, especially compared to Looney. I love Looney, even though I do have my problems with him. I love his rebounding ability, but his ability to protect the rim is just definitely not there, in my opinion. And I don't even think it's like even a debate for that. So. The more Kuminga gets more confident, I just think that Steve Kerr definitely needs to assert him just a little bit more and just allow him to run with the offense, and just run with certain lineups in the game. So I definitely love his ceiling. Honestly, I'm gonna put him at 10. I did have Sengun as 10, but I'm probably gonna slide him out and then add Kuminga in there.
Sure. All right. I'll talk about my number 10 then. I went a little bit boring, but I went Chris Duarte. He's just overall great player. He's averaging 13.1 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1 steals, and he's shooting 36.9 from 3. I think that's the best among rookies. It's pretty simple. I don't know if Duarte is ever going to be like an elite level player, but he's a wing that can defend, shoot from 3, but also is a triple threat. Duarte can dribble, pass, shoot. Enough to be number 1 option? No. Enough to be a number 2 option? Maybe on a young team, but probably not. But he's a wing that does all of that stuff and can be your third option. I think that's really valuable in the NBA, and a team like the Pacers are going to find that super valuable. He's probably the second best player right now, but to be realistic, obviously it's really early for them, but Reese and Duarte are probably at best second and third options on a team. So if you acquire that first, things could really change because you're going to want a guy like Duarte. Yeah, I believe he's 25. He's like an old-ass rookie, but he's doing all of that. So why don't we go ahead and go with some honorable mentions here? Do you have anything on Duarte before we do?
I didn't really prepare for anything on Duarte, but it's kind of like just watching it from the beginning of the year, and then of course going throughout the stretch of the year. I mean, even though he has had his ups and downs, but he's definitely showing to be a really gifted scorer for Indiana.
Yeah, I like Duarte. I think he's the type of guy you want on your team. There's a couple guys that I want to shout out that we didn't mention. You talked about him as your original number 10. Let's talk about Alperen Şengün, center for the Rockets. The only reason I didn't have him up here is he just doesn't get enough minutes, man. He gets under 20.
Sure.
He gets under like fucking 15 a lot of games. So he only averages like 9 and 5. And with those stats, I'm just not going to put you up there. But once he gets minutes, and I hope to God he gets minutes at some point, whether it's with Steven Silas, head coach, or not, he's going to do things. He scores. He passes. He throws out a behind-the-back fake like once a game. That's ridiculous. And I've been watching, again, I watch Rockets basketball. He's pretty good on the weak side on a defender. Like, he'll recover for blocks. He doesn't get a ton of vert, but he'll block the shit out of a ball, and he talks shit after, which is really, really cool.
It's funny.
Really cool. His confidence is up. I just think he needs the minutes. If he gets the minutes, he's going to break up here easily. I think he's the second most talented big man in this draft, and that's behind Evan Mobley, who's obviously number 1, but he just needs the minutes, man. You had him at 10. What were your thoughts on Şengün?
Basically everything that you mentioned, I'm going to just basically reiterate it. I think it's just a confidence to me that really just stands out. Obviously, he's not the most athletic. He's not the most gifted guy out there, but the fact that he goes out there and he plays hard every single night is just a testament to to how he really plays. And even though I honestly do agree. I think that Steven Silas needs to give him more minutes. I'm not really understanding why, honestly.
I don't know either.
But here's the thing: like at the beginning of the year, he played exceptional, which is why I had him at the top of my list, just because he was just he was just really an exceptional player for the Rockets, particularly once they got things together and got on like that small winning streak. So Şengün, in my opinion, is a guy that has some pretty, I wouldn't say high, like a high ceiling, but he definitely can be a great role player one day in the NBA. It just has to be in the right position.
Yeah, I think he's got like a high-level starter ceiling in him, if not higher, like a Yusuf Nurkic type of dude in this league. I think he can do that, and I really want to see the opportunity. A couple more guys I want to give a shout-out to. This guy's been in and out of the top 10 and could be in there depending on your argument, but off night, Davion Mitchell in Sacramento's been pretty good this year. He's a pit bull on defense. He comes off the bench, and he's had some games where he's popped off for scoring. The shooting splits aren't there right now, but he's got more potential of a shooter than some of the non-shooters that have come out in the draft recently. I know we've talked about Davion before, but give me a little bit on him as a player.
The offense is still a work in progress, if you want to say, at least,
Yeah.
in the NBA. But his defense is definitely up there. You can definitely say he's one of the best defensive players, or at least best on ball defensive players. As far as the rookie class, if you want to say, this guy definitely brings it. I've seen him stop guys like Donovan Mitchell. I've seen him shut down Damian Lillard. And the list just goes on and on and on. So whenever he gets that opportunity to guard like some of the best point guards in the league, he's definitely going to take advantage of it and step up to the challenge.
That he is. Last guy I want to shout out. He's not touching this list right now, but he was drafted in the top 10. I would like to mention him. Two guys, I guess. Jalen Suggs hasn't done a ton this season, but he's been injured for most of the season. He's going to be good, but we're going to move on. The guy I want to talk about is actually playing minutes for a playoff team. Who should give him credit? Some Ziaire Williams love, man, in Memphis.
Oh, yes.
I don't think he's going to crack the top 10 this year, but his prospects as a player are better. They need a wing. And he's a wing. He might be the wing they need. I think he might be a bit small for the wing they need in terms of a defender, but small ball lineups with him at power forward and Jaron at center are going to be great. He's got a lot of energy. The shot doesn't look great, I'll be honest, but if anyone's going to develop it, it's going to be Memphis. They're fantastic. But erraticness. Catches oops, throws some oops. I like it. I like Ziaire, but that's it. Any other rookies you want to mention, Dre?
I'm trying to think of some guys. There's like another guy in Houston that you could possibly say is Josh Christopher. He hasn't been
Josh.
he hasn't really shined as much as as Jalen Green has, but he definitely has had his moments. Yeah, that's true as well. But whenever he does get the opportunity, he does step up.
Yeah.
In a pretty good fashion. Any other rookies, honestly?
Not that I can think of
me neither.
At this time. If we're missing people, just tweet at us. We don't really care. Let's go to the plug zone. The plug zone. Dre, you got an article of the week for me?
Yes. If it's not my part-time Kyrie article, I'm gonna say I keep forgetting the name of this the name of this writer here, but definitely shout out to you. Once I figure it out, I'm gonna shout you out once this episode posts. But there was an article on Sir Charles in Charge, basically about Giannis's MVP chances. Honestly, we've been talking all year about DeRozan, Jokic, Ja Morant. Giannis has honestly been like a really consistent factor this year, when he's been able to play. And for some reason, he hasn't really been anybody's like top 2 or top 3 MVP. We get it. We get it. Milwaukee hasn't been like the top tier team this year. We know that they're the defending champs, but obviously with them missing Brook Lopez, Drew had missed a few games as well. Without their big three, they haven't really been the most elite factor team. They have won games, but we obviously know that they're better, with that big three in the lineup. But Giannis has had a pretty solid year this year.
Yeah.
He's definitely in the top 5 as far as my MVP race, and I just thought it was a good. I thought it was a good article, just really highlighting everything that he's done and how he hasn't really been like one of the top 2 or 3 MVP candidates.
Yeah, so it's Kyle McKee on Sir Charles in Charge. We'll tweet out the link later. It's cool though. I really like the shine on Giannis because he doesn't always get it. And if you know me, he's at the top of my MVP ballot. Of course, if the other guys win, I'm not going to be salty about it or say that he was robbed, but I watch him on a nightly basis. I'm not going to go against him. My article of the week, I mentioned it earlier. It's on ESPN. Jamal Collier wrote a article on Ayo DeSumo, who we talked about at length earlier in the podcast. I'm a huge fan of Ayo, and I think he's going to be a team player for a long time for this team, who's going to own his rights and then hopefully re-sign him. If they ever make a play for a big star at some point, they might have to include him, especially with guys like Lonzo and Caruso on the roster. But he's going to be a good player in the league for a while. And that's really
definitely,
and it explained really well in that article. So go check it out when we click it. We can move on. This is pretty much it. I've got a couple of things that we can wrap up on that'll take about like 30 seconds. Dre, any final thoughts for you?
Not that I can think of, man. March Madness continues, and if any of the guys decide to have a 50-60 point explosion, we're definitely going to highlight it next episode.
Let's finish with this thought. Terrance Mann, during an interview on his on his IG live. Sorry. I don't think I've ever won a regular season game in Utah. You know, the Jazz are regular season animals. I think in that context, he's not necessarily flaming them, but obviously people on Twitter took it in a sense that he's calling them a playoff pretender. They don't do anything in the playoffs. They're just a regular season team. Dre, what are your thoughts on Terrance Mann's comments?
I mean, honestly, you know how we feel about Utah. I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I rarely watch the games. I think the last game that I watched for Utah was the game last Monday against Milwaukee. But you know what I mean? You know, I mean, he's pretty much on the money when you talk about the Utah Jazz. I mean, for the past few years, you know, they've been great regular season. You know, we know what Donovan Mitchell can do. We know that Rudy Gobert brings to the table as far as other guys like Clarkson, Bogdanovich, you know, and the rest of the guys. But you know, it just hasn't really transcended into the playoffs. You know, we saw them fold, you know, last year against the Clippers, you know, practically after Kawhi got hurt and Paul George basically took over the rest of the series. So I don't know. It's like, you know, Utah wants their respect, but it's like, you know, nobody really believes in them, if you want to like say that.
Yeah. I think it's just people were calling them the Bucks for a bit, but the Bucks also have a top 5 consensus player. The Jazz just don't have that. Great
Right.
team. Mike Conley's been a good playoff player in his Memphis days. He was just hurt for most of the playoffs last year. Donovan
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell has risen to the occasion time after time. Rudy Gobert gets exposed, but it's mainly the defensive scheme that gets exposed in the playoffs, in my opinion. And then there's just nobody. Bojan Bogdanovic is a good player, but he's not going to win you playoff games, I don't think. Rudy Gay is a good player. He's not going to win you games like that. It's any guys that are going to win you games. The Bucks did that when they acquired a guy like Drew Holiday, who will just win you games when he needs to, too. And it's not that the Jazz aren't good. It's that if they play teams that can win you games, like a Paul George or guys like that, you're probably going to lose. And I think that's why people will consider them a regular season team. They may change their mind. I know a lot of people didn't believe in the Bucks until they finally did it. So maybe they will. But I'm on that same train. That's about it for us this week. Dre, why don't you tell them about your article that you wrote this week and plug your other stuff?
Yeah, just recently. Check out my Medium page at NickAndre29. I just recently put out an article called Part-Time Kyrie, just really highlighting, you know, the circumstances that the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie are under.
Right.
Basically, you know, talking about how, you know, the New York mayor can make a change, but unfortunately, you know, he's not in position, or he's not deciding to do that. But also just really highlighting, you know, the greatness of Kyrie Irving, you know, just really just being able to still being able to hoop under these circumstances. I highlight the 60-point game, I highlight the 50-point game against Charlotte,
Yeah.
I highlight the defensive stopping is Harden also in that matchup at Philly. So check it out. I mean, it's a pretty decent article. Well, to the fans, it is. You know how I am. I'm pretty harsh on myself. I could have done better, but you know, it is what it is.
I feel you. You can also follow him at NickAndreATR on Twitter. He'll be tweeting about all the work he does, especially and as well as other things. Give him a follow. You can follow me at _Gucifer. That's Lucifer with a G. If you care enough, give us a follow on Twitter at HoopTrutherPod. If you're watching on video, it's on the screen right now. For just updates, we also tweet out the fave picks every week, so you can check out those links and find those articles and videos that we're referencing. Give us a subscription on YouTube if you wouldn't mind. We're on video on there. It's Hoop Truther Studios on YouTube. Yeah, no excuses, baby. Video, audio, you can catch us out here. Give us a like and subscription if you're on YouTube too. You know, just be nice. Be nice. Come on. Just be nice to us. This is the Hoop Truther signing off. We'll be back next week where we search for the Hoop Truth yet again. Trey, thanks for coming on as always, and we'll see you next week. Deuces.